it's just so special for such our club, mate, our club.
Lastly, after 57 years of pain, it's coming home.
Hey there, TJ here, and welcome to Yeahthedees, where I'm going through our perplexing loss in round 21 against Collingwood at the MCG on Friday the 5th of August 2022. Yeah, very gutting, disappointing results when you lead for 85-ish% of the game and lose by 7 points. We dominated in all indicators and still unfortunately couldn't come out with the win, but we'll get through all that very, very shortly. The initial news for the week, there wasn't too much news on, except for the fact that Ed Langdon liked to put his foot in his mouth on the radio, and didn't he end up with pie on his face and in his back and all over him for the rest of the game? And because of those silly comments, and Collingwood is really not the side that you need to poke the stick with. You just don't. So it was very, very silly, very immature by Ed Langdon to make those comments. I was very disappointed to see them. And it just made me go, oh, why do you need to give a side like Collingwood, who are on a sick run like this, that's been absolutely ridiculous, never seen before, more motivation? Like, why do you want to do that? And it was just dumb. But yeah, that was pretty much the only news to really comment on during the week. So let's get into the teams. So the main change was Sam Wiedemann out for Ben Brown. James Harmes took the sub role and then didn't get a run. For the Pies, Taylor Adams is out and they had Brody Myercheck come in. Brody Myercheck's a fantastic player and did make an impact. Nothing too much to comment about the side. I thought we were pretty well balanced. I thought the team selection was pretty good. Yeah, let's just get into the game. We played such good footy in the first half, despite giving up 5 goals in the first quarter and another 5 scoring shots in the second. For a team to score 50 and a half, we were still very, very dominant and should have been another 6 goals up. It felt like a shootout, but it wasn't really a shootout. It's just that they were able to make the most of all their opportunities, and kicking 5 straight is just ridiculous, let alone getting 15-6 for the whole game. Like, their accurate kicking was really the difference from this. It was what kept them in the game, and we were so dominant throughout that first half. We had 41 inside 50s at half time, but still couldn't have put them away, which was really, really disappointing. The first incident of the game that we probably should talk about is after the first bounce, where the ball goes out to Ed Langdon and they all gang tackle him. The one thing that I noticed is that Ed Langdon was actually laughing at all the players. He was laughing at how serious the Pies were taking it and dealing with all those boos and things like that. And that's just the kind of person that Ed Langdon is. He doesn't really give a shit about footy. Like, he likes to play it and he does his thing, but it's not his be-all and end-all. And you know what? That's absolutely okay when you're an excellent player like he is. He can just go and do his thing. It was just an interesting observation that I just wanted to make, that I noticed him laughing when he got gang tackled like that. And it's like, how can the umpire actually let teams do that and jump on him when there's nothing to remonstrate for? Interesting stuff. But yeah, that was that sort of incident. But yeah, just the back and forth with goals throughout this first quarter. Of course, Mason Cox gets on the board when he's barely kicked a goal all freaking year. He's only kicked 4 for the whole year, and 3 of them have come against us, which is just like, can you believe it? Like, Mason Cox, Sam Reid. How do these, Jamara has his 5-goal game. Why do all these spuds get to have a wicked game against us when we actually have the best defence in the league? Like, we have the lowest score against out of all the teams, so we're easily the number 1 defence, and these spuds can still get on the board. And then Ash Johnson, who's played 4 games, can kick 4 goals as well. It's just, very, very surprising that sort of stuff happens. But the second quarter especially was when we had so much dominance and we couldn't make the most of it, which was really, really disappointing. Max Gawn had kicked two behinds by that point, kicks his 3rd later in the game, and his foot has to be bothering him still. I know he does this weird thing where he sort of spins the ball in his hand and he mucks around a bit and all that sort of stuff, and then just wiggles it around and throws it on his boot. Definitely a bad kicking style, and he should really fix that up. And you'd think Choco would be on him about that But I reckon his foot's still sore, and I reckon every time he kicks it, it hurts. He went at 48% disposal efficiency in this game, even though he was probably close to best on ground with his marking and all that. But his disposal was absolutely atrocious. And because it was absolutely atrocious, we couldn't get the win. And I'm sure he would be feeling that. He would be knowing that he missed all those shots. And he would be hardest on himself. But when we needed it, he was the only target taking marks in the forward line as well. But I really wanted to watch the forward line and how it was working. And we've been blaming the delivery this whole year, saying that it's the delivery's fault. And look, a lot of it is there's other chances where players go for goals and try to put the game on their back and win. But then there's moments where the forwards just aren't leading. And it happened 3 or 4 entries in a row in the second quarter, and I was able to point it out with my family who I was at the game with. I said, look, they're not moving, they're not leading. There was all this space in the forward 50, and 3 players went and stood in the pocket and waited for the person to just come and kick it on their head. So the defenders had the best opportunity. The defenders had the best opportunity for probably 60% of those forward 50 entries because the options weren't being made. So I'm putting the blame on the forwards for this game. They didn't lead properly. They didn't lead into space. They led backwards, trying to get the ball kicked onto their head rather than leading up to the kicker. Ben Brown is one of the best at leading to the forward and marking it at his tallest point. And we did not get to see that pretty much all game. Why is he not being coached to do what he does best? I just can't understand it. I can't fathom it that these forwards aren't being directed to do proper leading patterns. There's zero forward craft in there outside of Bailey Fritsch. And even so, he was hesitating to lead because he wants to pick up the crumb. So something really needs to happen there, whether that's bringing in different people that are willing to lead and make an option. Like the forward's job is to make the kick taker's decision obvious. It should be obvious who to kick to, and that was the main difference between us and Collingwood. Every time Collingwood went forward, the target, the most optimum person to kick to, was blatantly obvious. You could see when they got the ball on the wing and they were going to go forward, when our defence was slightly out of position, they're going to go there, there, and there. It was obvious. And that's what we don't do. We don't do that in the forward line, and it sucks. Because we have a good forward line. We have some talent in there. Ben Brown is a very talented player. He gets a lot of hate because he's gangly and all that sort of stuff, and he's come from North, but he's a great footballer. He knows how to lead, but I think he needs a bit of confidence and be told, hey, mate, you're the man. Lead up to the kicker. That's all that needs to happen there. If we have one person leading to the kicker, there's going to be an obvious choice for the kicker to kick to. Bailey Fritsch is a great player. Jake Melksham is an elite kick that can do a job on a defensive player. Cozzy Pickett had an almost game today. He just has some games like that. And then he has some games like he does against Port where he kicks 6 goals and does heaps of tackles because it just happens to work. You're never going to drop Cozzy. His forward pressure is phenomenal. Charlie Spargo, another phenomenal footballer. One of the smartest footballers I think I've ever watched, especially for his size. He has a 56% mark rate inside the forward 50, which is a stat that I've pinched from On the Couch. He's a fantastic kick. He knows how to play football. He shouldn't be going anywhere. Alex Neil-Bullen plays a defensive forward role to allow Petrarca to play an attacking midfield forward role. He's one of the best tacklers in the comp, one of the best forward pressure players in the comp. So he's definitely going to stay in the team. Jackson rotates through the middle. Absolute unicorn. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. Can take a mark, can kick some goals. So you're not going to drop him either. So how do we fix this? And it's got to be with the way that they work together and the way that they interlink. That's the way that it needs to be fixed. And they need to be leading forward to the kicker, not leading backwards to the pockets. Because when we get the overlap and we're kicking over the top, they're all running back, and that's fine. We got plenty of goals like that against Freo. That works. But when it's slower and the defender's already there and the forward's already there, they've got nowhere to lead back to, but they're still moving back to the pockets, which if you do mark it, makes it a very, very difficult kick. So we're just making our lives harder for ourselves with the way that we deliver inside forward 50 and the way that the forwards lead. That's all that needs to be fixed. Everything else in our game is brilliant. The personnel's great. The contest works great. Defending's great. Moving the ball out of defensive 50 still works. Still going down the line across the wings still works. It's all there. Just get the fucking forwards fixed. So yeah, 17 points up at halftime. Should have been 6 goals at least. But their brilliant kicking kept them in it. 8 goals too. Awesome from them. And then they put on some really, really good pressure in this third quarter. And things I thought could have gotten out of hand. We actually had a really, really good defensive quarter in here, despite coughing up 3 goals. They should have kicked a lot more. We got plenty of intercepts. Stephen May was huge in this quarter. Played very, very well. We kicked 1 goal 4, so we were all over the shop again with our kicking, and it didn't help. But it was enough to be just 7 points and give these bastards a sniff. And then they got the first couple of goals of this quarter after a huge arm wrestle back and forth, and it was on. You know, their crowd became a 23rd player, 24th player because they used their sub. And when you got a young group like that, being inspired by such a raucous, loud crowd, it's able to help them and inspire them along. We kicked 2 goals straight in this quarter. So we made the most of our opportunities, but we didn't have a lot, which was really, really disappointing. Ben tried his best, and Alex, who gets whipped all the time, were able to get goals on the board. So 2 whipping boys almost got us back to winning this game. We led for most of the game. We really deserved to win, and it just didn't happen, unfortunately. The pressure that the Pies put on exacerbated our handball game. It made us handball more. We over handballed to pressure. We could have dump kicked it forward and tried to push the ball out of bounds to create a 50-50 and go again. But it was just too much pressure, and we kept going backwards. Because of the crowd getting on their side as well, I think the umpires got sucked in for a few calls. I think they were umpiring for cheers a little bit, which can happen with the energy of the game. But if you were there at the ground like I was, you could feel it shift, and it was the energy in the crowd that was really helping assist that. They were booing everything, cheering everything, and it was a really, really, really loud atmosphere. Easily one of the top 3 loudest atmospheres I've ever been in. It's a huge advantage to have a crowd like that, and just we're not that loud. We got loud in that second quarter after Ben Brown and Alex Neil-Bullen kicked those goals. But yeah, we left this bloody side with a sniff. They were able to get it done, which just it's happened to us 5 times now. We've had 5 games where we've been leading and we haven't put them away. There's not an exact pattern other than our forward line connection being a bit average in those. But there's, Stephen May being injured in some, Harrison Petty being injured in some. There's a few indicators there that make it seem like, like we're not shit. We're not losing because we're shit. We're not losing because the players are shit. There's just some small execution problems that need to be fixed. But yeah, absolutely gutting with this ending. This last behind that they kicked was the only behind they got from set shots. So before Jack Crisp kicked this behind 34 minutes into this last quarter on the siren, they kicked 10 straight from set shots, which is just absolutely obscene. It's like kicking 10-1 is like 94% accuracy from set shots. The average is between 55 and 75%, like at best. At best, it's in that margin, and they got 10-1, 10 straight before the siren went. So it's a complete outlier of a game that they played. They played a game in a way that has not been statistically like that very, very often. Teams just aren't that accurate on average. But this time they were, and because they were, we lost the game. I don't think they won it. I think we lost it. But the most disappointing thing about these last 6 minutes after they got back in front through Ash Johnson, the 4-gamer who kicked 4 goals, is we had 6 minutes to try and get another look at it, and we didn't get one opportunity. We weren't able to get one opportunity to have a look at it, and I felt that was really, really disappointing. Anyway, let's just get into the stats from the game. We'll have a bit of a quick look through it. Christian Petrarca tried his guts. Like, everybody tried their guts out. There was not one player on the ground that I think wasn't trying hard. I think they all They all did really, really well, but yeah, we've got the usual suspects up the top here in terms of metres gained. Petrarca, Gawn, Brayshaw, Oliver, Salem, Langdon, Viney, Jordan, Hibbard. Yeah, Alex Neil-Bullen also wasn't too bad. Clayton Oliver, Max Gawn, Jack Viney, top 3 in clearances. Tried their guts out. Clayton Oliver, Angus Brayshaw, Jack Viney, tops in tackles. Maxi Gawn took 10 big marks throughout the game. Clayton Oliver, 42 disposals, 28 handballs. That just shows how much pressure was on because there's been so many handballs throughout the game, and there'd be little moments where he'd get 2 or 3 disposals really, really quickly. Disposal efficiency is also something I really, really look at all the time, and if we all go all the way down the bottom, Max Gawn 48%, and 42.9 from foot. So that just shows how poor his kicking was for all night. There's not anybody worse than him for the game. 12 intercepts from Stephen May, 7 from Jake Lever. When you have a look here through the team stats, you can see how much we absolutely dominated. In possession, 409 disposals to 316, 201 kicks and 208 handballs, and they only had 99 handballs. So it shows how, even though their disposal, like it's almost exactly the same, so they're around the same disposal efficiency, but having almost 100 less, and the score being what it was, is it's mind-boggling to see how they were able to win. 65 inside 50s to 41. This is where the quality is, because it comes down to the efficiency inside 50. You know, that's a 12% difference. 12. I haven't talked much about the umpiring because I really like to prefer talking about what's in our control, but there was some real contentious holding the balls in Collingwood's forward 50. It was ridiculous. But that's not something that we can control. We can only control our actions, the way we play, our decision making, our kicking efficiency, that sort of thing, and that's where we lost the game. Bad decisions happen in every football game. Umpires miss 3, 4, 5 free kicks both ways every game easily, and they stuff up 2 or 3 to both teams easily in all games, and that's just the way that it is. You don't know when you're going to cop them or what you're going to do. I don't think any of the umpires are biased. I think they do get influenced by crowds a little bit. They get sucked into the energy, but we could have overcome that if we had to just kick straight. Hit outs pretty even throughout there. Clearances, like it's just so dominant, giving ourselves the first crack at everything in this game. And that's why this is so disappointing. It's so disappointing that we had all these clearances, but then in that last 6 minutes, we couldn't get a clearance. We couldn't clear out. They took the most of their opportunities, and that's the game. On to the coaches' votes now, and Max Gawn got the perfect 10 from both coaches. Jordan De Goey ended up with 8, Jamie Elliott with 5, Christian Petrarca 3, Christian Salem 2, Nick Dacos 1, and Braden Maynard with 1, which means the coaches would have split it up something like this. On to my votes now, and I gave 1 vote to Stephen May. Thought he was huge, especially in that third quarter, 12 intercepts for the game. Gave 2 votes to Jack Viney. He tried to do as much as he could on his own, absolutely bullocking through the midfield. Gave the 3 votes to Christian Salem. Thought this was one of his best games since he's come back from injury. Very disappointing he didn't kick that goal at the siren throughout the game, but that was the only disappointment I had with him. Gave 4 votes to Max Gawn, even though he got the 10 votes from the coaches for the game. Missing those 3 goals and having a sub 50% disposal efficiency drops you down in my books. Gave 5 votes to Clayton Oliver. He had the most clearances in the game for us. Gave us as much run as he could. Also got a really, really bad kick to his hand throughout the game, so was definitely playing sore. And gave 6 votes to Christian Petrarca, who I felt was the most impactful midfielder for us on the game. Jake Lever, Ben Brown, and Angus Brayshaw are probably all a bit stiff not to get votes. But yeah, here is our leaderboard and where everybody sits. No VFL this week. We had another bye. The VFL schedule is bizarre. I think we've had 3 or 4 buys already this season, and it's just really, really odd. But so it sucked that we couldn't see JVR get back out there, because I really wanted to see how Jacob Van Ruin would do again. Is he the answer? I'm not sure. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. His leading patterns are pretty good when I've watched him. I think he's done pretty well, and maybe against Carlton it would be worth it. You know, they've only really got Wiedering and a Mitch McGovern back there, and then the rest of their defence is rather trash. That's why they've been losing games towards the back end of the year. So I'm really not bothered by playing them this week. I think we will dominate them and get the win. I think we've lost all our games for the year. I kind of predicted that we'd have 4 or 6 losses for this year. I just didn't know where they would come, and we've hit 6. So we had a really, really difficult draw. Played Geelong once, Collingwood twice, played Sydney once, got Brisbane twice, Fremantle twice, Carlton once, Richmond once. Like, that's pretty decently hard, you know, draw to come with. And then you look at Sydney, they've only played everyone in the top 8 once, or will only play everyone in the top 8 once. They've had a very blissful draw, and we end up on the same amount of points. We'll get 2 more wins. We'll get 8 more points. We're going to end up on 64 for the end of the year. I'm sure we're going to beat Brisbane and Carlton. I think we've got the wood over both of them. I hope we bring JVR in to have a look at him against Carlton. If he kicks a bag, keep him in. If he doesn't, maybe we just go back to trying a Weed or Ben Brown or whatever, but I'm not sure who you exactly take out to try him. The Cats should get the job done against Gold Coast. Collingwood versus Sydney this week. I think we'll really see, like, both teams I find are hard to get a read on, because Sydney have had a somewhat easy run with their fixture, and then Collingwood just keep getting these wins out of nowhere. Sitting second with 15 wins and a percentage of 106.3 just absolutely boggles my mind. Brisbane gets St Kilda. I don't see them losing to St Kilda. I just don't. Lucky for Brisbane, the game against St Kilda this week isn't at the MCG. It's at Marvel, so they should be fine. Fremantle versus West Coast, so yeah, they should probably get the job done there. Richmond against Hawthorn, they'll probably get the job done also there. I don't know what Giants are going to rock up against the Western Bulldogs, but it's going to be very, very tough for them to come in. Some people have predicted that Carlton will lose 2 games and the Bulldogs will win 2 games and take their spot. And wouldn't that be amusing? But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts for the ladder, for the games coming up. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know your thoughts about this game and our game coming up in the comments below. I try to reply to all of them. Looking forward to us versus Carlton on Saturday night. So thank you very much for watching another episode of Yeahthedees.
And it's just so special for such our club, mate, our club.
Lastly, after 57 years of pain, it's coming home.